Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to Aquarius Rising Africa. Hello, cats. As cats comes on, I have to show you my beautiful gift that I am appeasing my inner child with, my white lion paws. I just love them. So happy Monday, everybody. Hope you're all having a wonderful day and have had a fantastic weekend. And yes, I'm so happy that Beverly has made it tonight or this morning, wherever in the world you are. And welcome back to Aquarius Rising Africa with me, Chantal, your hostess, with definitely the mostest of everything. So I hope you all and yeah, welcome to all the wenches with wrenches. Yeah, exactly, cats. As Katz's comments come on, I'm like about to speak about my claws, my paws, not claws, paws. My inner kitten, not inner child. Inner kitten is being appeased. Anyway, Monday Madness it is. So before we bring Beverly on, just one or two announcements, Meow. Yes, Miss Fiji. Okay, well, we've got the usual lineup this week as well. But then tomorrow evening at 6 o'clock, same time as now, I'll be doing the second interview with Chris Latara, the Montauk survivor. And if you guys watched the first interview, he was actually codenamed Duncan Cameron, who was in the chair on the 12th of August, 1983, when Camp Hero pretty much exploded, came to an end when the monsters came through the portals and they literally had to shut the place down. So tomorrow is the anniversary of that 42 years. 42 years. So we are, and that of course is on the 12th of August. So please join us for that show, because Chris and I just pretty much revisit that day and obviously just shares more of his testimony and his story with us. And of course, can't have a show like that without a bonus and a lovely, lovely giveaway. And because it's the 12th of August, we are giving away 12 of Chris's books. So Ara is donating 6, and Chris is also donating 6. So 12 giveaways on tomorrow's show. So catch the show tomorrow, and once it's on, you can send us your emails and details and stuff like that, and we will give you what the book is. It's an amazing book called Terror in Montauk. And then also Chris is offering a 20% discount on all his books. So the website is in the description area as well. And if you want to buy a copy of his book, Terror at Montauk, just put in the code name ARA and you get a 20% discount on that. So yay, thank you. And talking about books, guys, let me tell you what I did this weekend. Now, you all might know and have heard about, right, the trophy hunter that was killed in South Africa a few days ago by a buffalo. And he is some rich dude from Texas. I'm not going to say too much about how I feel about that, because I think you all know how I feel about trophy hunters. But it really hurt my heart, because all over the internet the story was going, and then there were a lot of jokes made about, well, I hope that the buffalo is okay, and is the buffalo's mental health okay? Well, one thing I know for sure is that no, the buffalo is not okay if you look at it like that, because anytime something like that happens, of course, the animal gets cold almost immediately. So as an animal communicator, I actually connected. I was incensed, I have to tell you. but I connected with the spirit of the buffalo. And what a beautiful connection that was. So rather than feel annoyed, I decided to take that pain I felt, because it really was pain and still is, because I just reached the point of how many more times does this need to happen before people take heed? Anyway, so I wrote a short story, and there is the link. So I would love for you guys to download that, and it's called uh, Kumbarai, okay, the short story of Kumbarai, the last one standing, or the one who stood. And it's a short story of Kumbarai as he gave it to me, and I try to put it into a little synopsis as much as what I could and just share with you guys. So it's free. Please download it. It's on all my social media platforms already, if you're not going to get it here. And yeah, enjoy my first offering. Here we go. Enjoy my first offering of my first short story. And I hope you enjoy it. And without any further ado, Tara, Madame,
Hi,
how are
Chanti.
you?
Hi, Chanti. I'm very well. Thank you. Rather warm here in Florida. Extremely hot, I must say. And I think it's not so much the actual temperature, I think it's the humidity. Because as you can see, I've ended
Hmm.
up with severe beach hair because nothing, I'd straighten it and within like an hour it's all curls again. So yeah, it's been lots of fun. Went off to a place called
Listen,
Panama
you
City.
look stunning with that hair of yours, babe. It looks great. So
Thank you,
I
Chanti.
wouldn't be complaining if I was you. You have a lot to be grateful for with that
That's true.
lioness mane.
It is. Oh dear. Yeah. So
Exactly. So, is America being kind to you?
America's been very kind to me. There's lots of amazing things to see, places to go, all sorts of experiences that I've never had before. You know, things like fruit bowls and bowls made out of oats and all sorts of strange things. And it's like, yeah, so I must admit, this weekend was going here, there, and everywhere, looking at stuff and the beaches. Oh my God, the beaches in Florida. They are pure white. They look like sugar. They're so white and powdery and just amazing, but your feet sink into them. So it's heavy going on the legs, but it is really really beautiful.
Very good
And
exercise.
yeah, they are good for the exercise. So yeah, my legs
Well,
do
no,
do do recall that I've been doing exercise here.
well, no wonder those Florida girls have such nice legs, because if that's the beaches they got to walk, I'm not. It's a bit like the Cape Town girls here. You know, when you look at Clifton, all those
Yeah,
steps they have to climb up and down
yeah.
to get to that beach every day.
Yes, true.
That's their
And
exercise.
it's a beautiful beauty even at night, because I went down again during the evening to have a look, and it was as flat as glass. You mean it's like this pale bluey green color, and it's completely flat, and it's something I wasn't expecting, because obviously in England the beaches have little tiny pebbles on them, and it's this funny dark green, sort of browny green color, and it's ice cold. Whereas here, I thought, oh, I wonder if that's got warm water or cold water. So I thought, I'm not going to put my toes in. I'll just leave it. But I think we'll probably go down again on the weekend and have a look. Yeah, and then we've gone looking for Sasquatch. So we've looked for the, what did they call it? The Florida skunk ape. So we've got a lot of footage on that. So we're busy wading through all of that at the moment to see what the footage looks like. And we've caught some unusual things. So yeah, it's turning out to be an extremely interesting trip. Thank you for asking.
Wow, that's amazing. And I just managed to catch part of your show on Saturday,
Hmm.
where you were saying you were doing that, I think, with Danny Henderson, right? Were you
Yes,
gallivanting with Danny?
yes, yes. It was yeah. That
Was it
show.
fun?
Oh, it was lots of fun. She's too funny for words. Oh my goodness, that woman has the best sense of humor, and she just belts it out and says it as it is. And I'm like, oh my goodness me, Daddy, here you go again. So that show comes out 7:30 on the 14th of August. That will air. Yes, we did have lots of fun, and we shared one of the videos with Danny, and she's put that on. I think she's put it on her Facebook page because it was very obvious that the Alawan, which is what they're called over here, the Alawan was actually shimmering. You could see it shimmering. It was very good. So yeah, that's going to be coming out. Very, very obvious, and she does play it on the show, which is great.
Wow, amazing. Well, have fun.
Yeah,
And
I'm having a lot of fun.
Bring us back lots of interesting stories.
Yes.
So I look forward to hearing all about your trip as you go along anyway, because I know you're there for a little while, yeah?
Till October, the first week of October. I won't be here for Samhain, for Halloween. But that becomes like a whole industry here. Went out yesterday and all the Halloween stuff is out. You must see the stuff that they have here. Oh my goodness. It's like a whole
it's big, isn't it?
It's huge. Yeah, it's amazing. So I can see people are going to do their houses up, do themselves up, do their porches up. I won't be here for that. I'll miss that bit, but I'll see them getting ready for it, which is going to be super duper.
Well, enjoy.
Thank you.
But tonight we are going to be talking about how the trafficking, call it the child transportation rings, right? Yeah. Are set up between US, UK, Asia, no doubt Africa as well. So I think that's so important for us to understand as well, how these networks work. And I think you've obviously had some first-hand experience with your delightful father, brother-in-law, uncle, handler, abuser. Oh, gosh. I have to say, and just before we get on to that, I've been reading your book, and it is an amazing book. And I again, want to encourage you guys to get Beverli's book. But I must confess what I thought, because when you kind of go through it, it's relaxed, comfortable. I mean, I knew that the content wasn't going to be comfortable, but I've kind of read books like that before and it wasn't too bad. But wow, I really have to take it in chunks. And I have to kind of take a bit of a walk, because it's beautifully written and it's so you speaking in the book. I mean, I can so hear you, and you go into enough detail, but you don't overstep another boundary. I can't explain it. There's enough information that really touches the heartstrings and absolutely puts me there right with you, if you know what I'm saying. So it has that kind of empathetic draw to it. And it is really, really well written. And I think, honestly, guys, The Horse Girl by Beverli Rhodes, there is an incredible story of detail. You're speaking about the gift babies as well, go into detail about that. I just love the way you take it through the different steps as well. You kind of take us through the steps, everything.
It's a journey.
You give us a lot of information.
It's a journey.
Yeah.
Well, because it was from, that's why I called it from the 3 stages, from hate to hope and then to healing. Because really, if you think about it, everything started from a hateful space. The energy was extremely hateful. And not just from, the 7/7 London bombings, but it was also hateful because there was a child that was created, that arrived in this world, that was clearly, not wanted, and then was shoved off somewhere else because you had to find somewhere to give these children. So that, in a way, I classify that as a hateful event too. And then to move that further on to everything that happened during the childhood and all those years of doing what needed to be done, but then go into the hope, because hope does begin in the dark. And when you're in your darkest moments, the dark night of the soul, that's when you realize, actually, I think I should be hopeful, because the opposite to that is ending it. And I was just, I think, one of those children or youngsters that was just too full of nonsense to think that I would end something and just not want to be here. So a bit of a fighter, really, very, very, very much a fighter, always very cheeky, always asking hundreds of questions all the time. And I just wanted to know everything. And I think that's what gave me hope as well. I could see other people living their best life. And I thought, no, that's what I want. I want that too. So if anyone is listening today or watching today, even in the chat, if you hit that dark night of the soul, you've got to your rock bottom. You cannot get lower than that. Lower than a snake's belly. That's the only way then is up after that. And that's when you get to that rock bottom, then you can start moving upwards and onwards and allow your best life to come forward. And that's what I then did, which is why the last part of the book is the healing book, is the piece of the healing, is where I got all of that nonsense and started moving that through with, the post-traumatic stress syndrome. They're calling it now PTSS instead of PTSD. Why they keep changing all these acronyms, I really don't know. But that's the latest now. PTSD has now become PTSS. Who knew?
Well, whatever it is, however many labels they choose to give it, it really is a spiritual journey. I don't believe that anyone can go through something like this without complete and utter spiritual healing, spiritual awareness. You have to, it's not a psychological thing. It can't, and it's not religious either. It's a spiritual thing. And it's a deep emotional healing that has to take place, because the first thing they betrayed were your emotions. Long before they started betraying your body, they betrayed your emotions. They betrayed, you were abandoned, right? You were pushed aside as an infant. So,
and it's difficult. It's difficult to get past that. It's a cycle that when you start seeing those cycles, because of the lack of trust and being able to trust in people again and be able to trust in relationships and trust that love will conquer, very, very hard. And I have been accused many times of saying, well, you didn't have much of a family life, and that's why sorry, and that's why you can't adjust to being in a family environment that well. So yeah, I would say, I'll own that. Yeah, I accept that. I can see that is an issue. It's something I had to work on, and I had to allow myself to feel trusting towards individuals. And it is extremely hard to get past everything that's happened, but it's something you have to work on every day. It's not something that you just wake up one morning and say, oh, okay, this morning I think I'm going to trust, people that are around me. No, it doesn't work like that. Yeah, it does. It takes time. Because it took years to get to the point where you realize that trusting will equal pain. And that's where I had come from in the past.
And it's, especially in your situation as well, because it was only on your mother/sister, her deathbed, or not long before her death, that she actually told you she was not your mom. And you were in your 30s already or something, right?
Yeah, already 30. So it's a huge shock. It was a huge shock. I went, what? Yeah, it was one of those where you think, your whole world just comes crashing down around you and think, what the hell was that all about? And then you start realizing, and
Exactly.
then you've got all that time to sit and think, well, Sarah, my real birth mother, I looked at her, looked at me, looked at them, and then I realized, well, actually, when you look at the pictures of the so-called family, yeah, that don't fit in at all, don't look anything like them. They are, the blue-eyed, bluey green-eyed, turquoise colored eyes with the blonde hair. And when I was young, I had very, very long pitch black dark hair and totally different face, totally different body structure. And you think, well, there's always one black sheep in the family. I had thought that it was obviously me, but then when the revelation started coming, I thought, oh my goodness me, that's the reason why. And then things suddenly, when you have these little things, these aha moments where things start just falling into place, think, okay, now I see it. Whereas before, I just used to think I was a misfit. But then you realize, well, actually, that's why you're a misfit, because you don't really fit. You should be over there. And then when I met the rest of the family, when I came back home to the UK, and I met the rest of the sisters that were still alive. I mean, there's only one left now. Um, it was like, oh, okay. And you then start realizing, okay, this is where this all fits in. And then you realize where that whole cycle starts and how it ended. But at least it ends. It does end with me. It will never ever be. There will never be another cycle like that ever again. It's done.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that. I have to say, when I speak to a number of the survivors, um, it's it seems that with a lot of the survivors like yourself who have gone through really extreme abuse and torture and come out on the other side, right? And you can face life with love. That's the end of that abusive cycle.
Yeah.
So I see a lot of survivors are actually doing that. And that is such a beautiful thing because that's the breaking of the ancestral bloodline curses
Yeah.
and, whatever people call it. It breaks that karma. It's the end of that era. No more. It stops with me. And that takes a lot of courage. I mean, that takes a lot of strength
Mm.
um, to be able to take on that load and to actually stop it because it means, very often you go through the stuff that you've been through. And
Mm.
now you say no more. But it took
No,
that for
I had
you
to.
to get,
Yeah, I had to,
yes,
because he,
exactly.
he'd started the same sort of nonsense with one of my children, because I have four daughters, and he had my handler Peter had started that same nonsense, and I had actually walked in on him doing something very specific to the child, and I just saw red, and I just said, there is no way that you are doing this to my daughter. There's no way that you're taking my girls and putting them into the same environment. Absolutely no way. I said, this is not negotiable. And I really did, I went ballistic. And I thought, at the time, I thought, well, if I don't get out of this house with my child, I'm gonna get rid of him. I'm just gonna do whatever is necessary. I'll go to Chucky if I have to. I'll go to prison if I have to, but I'm gonna take him out. And then I left and took her to hospital, and she spent about 3 days in hospital. And yeah, they were very good. They were able to tell us what was happening with my ex-husband at the time. And yeah, I kept all of that very secretive. I never said to anyone what I'd walked into, because it was so shameful, because I thought, no, this is what's happening. And this poor daughter of mine is now starting down. And the sod, he'd given her some cool drink. I think it was Kool-Aid. He'd mixed in the usual tablets, put it in the Kool-Aid. She drank the Kool-Aid, and she was half asleep. So How much of that she remembers, I really don't know. But I think that some of it on a super conscious level, I think she did remember. But at least by my actions, removing myself completely from them and not having anything more to do with them, and just saying, right, that's it. You will have no access to anybody, none of my girls, ever again. That's it, job done. And they were terrible. They then decided they were going to fight me. Huh. They were going to fight me for custody of my children because they saw, the money was going out the door. So what are they going to do? Oh no, they went to go and see lawyers to see if they could fight me for my own children. And I warned my ex-husband. I said, be careful. This is what they're doing. They want the girls because all they see, well, as you know, there's a value on top of the head, and all they saw was the value. Yeah, there we go. We've got another. Bev has made 4 daughters. That's over £1 million worth of money sitting right there. Rude, very rude.
I'd say that is extremely rude.
Yeah.
I'm just interested to find out. I mean, that's very disturbing. How old was your daughter when
3.
he was feeding her? 3.
3.
Wow.
3. 3.
And was it only the one?
It was only the one that I'm aware of, the one that I walked in on. And he was engaging. He had her over the bed, and he was engaging in fellatio at the time, or not, well, trying to get that, but he was more involved with trying to get her to engage in that. But because she was so drugged, she couldn't do what he was asking of her. And then he was also busy, kissing other areas. She had a little swimming costume on because she'd been outside the back in a blow-up swimming pool, and she'd been playing in the water and come in, and she had her Kool-Aid drinking, and he just waited for usual same modus operandi. They do the same thing, drug the drinks, and they just wait for it to, so that they start getting all woozy, and then they sit down, and then it's almost like those date substances that they put in drinks where you don't really remember.
No.
That's the one. Yes. It wasn't that one. It was a different type one in those days. It was a little blue tablet that was in it like a triangle. I remember it so well. This little triangle, and you crush it up and you put it in the drink. And she was lying across the bed with her legs over the edge of the bed. And that's what I walked into. So he's lucky that at that stage I didn't take him out, because at that stage I was ready. I was going to have him. But I thought, no, I've got children to raise. It's not going to be any good for me to take him out. I'd rather take her straight to the hospital, which is what I did. And then they sorted everything out.
I'm interested to know, when that happened, had your memories, they couldn't have surfaced yet, the deeper ones, right?
No, they hadn't surfaced.
So were you aware when you caught him with your daughter, that you already had memories like that of him? Were you?
No, I wasn't aware. I thought this was rather naively and stupidly, actually. I'll take that. I thought that this was opportunistic.
Naively.
I thought that he'd
naively.
find an opportunity. He'd found an opportunity. He gave her something to drink, which was drugged. And I think he was very good at calculating, what were the odds of him getting caught in that. But he didn't calculate that I would come back to the house, and that I wasn't very well at the time. And they said, no, you're going to make everybody sick at work, and you just go back home, get some rest, have the 3 days that you're allowed to take sick leave. And that was sort of midday. It was about lunch, just after lunch. I'd left work, I think about 12ish, and then went home. So he didn't hear the car pull up outside the house, and he didn't hear my keys in the door. I think he was so hell-bent and got himself all worked up and was being very randy about everything. And it was the back bedroom, and had to walk through the house, past the, through the sun lounge, through the main hallway, back past the bathroom, turn left, and then go into the bedroom. And it was that bedroom. So, and he didn't hear me. He didn't hear me. I know I'm a Leo and I'm very quiet with my walking, but I think he was just so focused on getting his rocks off that he didn't hear me. And that was it. I just said, right, I'm going to have you, mate. You've had it. And I scooped her up, got her little swimming costume, wrapped her in a towel, picked her up because she was only 3. She's an only very slight child, very thin child. And then out with lots of screaming and shouting. Very rude, extremely rude, and put her in the car, lay on the back seat, and thought,
I'm not sure if it's me or Bev. Can someone in the chat tell me if it's me or Bev?
yeah. So it was a very difficult. It really was a very difficult time, but I had to make that decision. And no child wants to be cut off from their grandparents, but I seriously could not allow another possible opportunity, because you could never trust them. You could never trust that the child would be safe. You could never. And that's why I said, that's it. Yeah,
oh my gosh, no.
You're out of my life.
Why could
No.
So I'm interested to know, what was his reaction when you caught him with your daughter?
I think his reaction was shock, because he was not expecting. He got up and he was like, "Oh, you're back. You're back." That was the first thing. And I just swore at him. I said, "What the? Do you think you're doing?" Very great, many 4-letter words. And I just said, "What do you think you're doing? What are you playing at?" And I called him a lot of very horrible names. And he was like rummaging around for his underwear. And I just said, "No." I said, "Get out of my sight." And I actually again said, "If you come near me or my children, my girls, I will take you out personally, or I'll pay someone to take you out, because you can do that in South Africa quite easily." So, yeah, his reaction, he wasn't overly upset. He was just like, "What are you doing back home? Well, how did you decide to get back home? You're meant to be at work," type of thing. So, yeah.
So when you started, your memory started surfacing, obviously many years after that.
Yes.
How did you reconcile that? I mean, I'm also interested to know that, I know that when you were a little girl with him, he didn't start that immediately, but he obviously started the grooming. So I'm wondering if he actually didn't even start with you earlier.
Yeah.
In a more drugged state.
He might
you
have
know
started.
what I'm saying?
He might have in a drug state. I mean, that particular daughter of mine, I mean, she was very, very young. She was only 3. But when I started getting the memories back, I was thinking, I thought, well, we used to go around there for Sunday lunch, and obviously he was always there and she was there.
Oh. Hello, me. Okay, guys. Well, obviously Bev has popped out again. So I am just going to hope she pops in again. For those of you who didn't catch the beginning, we did start a little bit late because Bev has had a power failure in America. I was just saying in the chats that you guys in America have our load shedding that we haven't had for like maybe a year. No, we actually did have it a few months ago, but not very bad. So let's just wait. Ah, yeah, she is.
My goodness. They really don't want me talking about this, do they? They're just like, I'm going to just cut you off, throw you out, do whatever. They're ridiculous. They just don't want me to say anything.
We wading our way through the swamp.
Yeah, to tell you, it's ridiculous. So, yeah. So I was then going back when I was busy writing, and I had a lady helping me as well. That was really great. She was a writer, and she said to me, right, let's look at this, let's look at that. And then she would say to me, well, what do you remember about Sunday lunch? What do you remember? How often did you leave the girls, with them? How often did they come to your house? And I think, oh my goodness me. When you have that realization and you think, oh Lord, what did I inadvertently allow to happen? How did I allow this to happen? But the good thing was when this incident happened, I just said, no, that's it. No, you're not going to have any access to the girls. So, and that stayed pretty much for all their lives. And I never really explained to them, the girls. I never explained to them why I stopped them from seeing their grandparents on my side. They saw, obviously, the grandparents from my ex-husband's side, but they never saw them from my side because it was a very shameful event. And I wanted to make sure that it only happened, to my knowledge, the one I walked in on happened once. But I think when you look at the grooming cycle and you look at how often these incidents happen in private, I would imagine, I don't know for sure, but I would imagine that if I've caught him once, the rule of thumb is that there would have been other incidents that I didn't catch him.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. So it was one of those where.
Did you ever have any conversation? Absolutely. I mean, absolutely, 100%. Did you ever have any conversations with him before he died about any of this?
I did have some conversations with him. I did go to see him a couple of times, and that specific daughter, I did take that daughter with me to the facility that he was in when we went to go and see him. But he was quite far gone mentally. I mean, he had a lot of issues. And what really peed me off the most is that the hospital was great. Hospital that he was in was perfect for him. He was very well looked after. And we went into the area where he was having some food and he was being assisted to have his dinner. And I went in there, and this particular daughter was with me. And he thought that she was me. And so he referred to her as boy straight away. And she kind of looked at me and said, well, why is he calling me that? I said, because he thinks you me at that age. That's why. And it's the same SH1T, be a good girl, all the whole usual stuff. I can go. So yeah. And yeah, I did try to have a conversation with him, but I think I left it too late because his mind was already a bit bossy. He was already befuddled in his mind, and he was talking about things that he'd done, and he talked about, working for the government, and he talked about all the things that he shouldn't talk about. He's talking about them. And then he was sitting at the table, he was eating, he thought he was in a hotel. And I thought, no, he really had no idea, where he was. He knew what his name was. He knew the work that he used to do, but he remembered like years and years and years and years and years back. So he was like, and he would say to me, is there, are they sending a helicopter? How did you get here? And, this sort of thing. And you think, oh my agony aunt, you really just have no idea where you are. So the last sort of couple of years of his life, he thought he was staying in a hotel and that they were looking after him and that his meals or whatever. He had no idea where he was. So, I did ask him earlier. I did say to him, why? And he was like, what do you mean by why? But then when I had one of my daughters with me, he immediately addressed her as boy. I thought, he's got no idea. So I left it way too late to address anything with him. But there were a lot of cases in the place that he was at, the home that he was in, where they would call and say, are you aware that Mr. Rhodes has tried to do this to one of our very, very young novice nurses? And I thought, oh, well, so he's still trying it on. He's still trying it on. He's as sick as that in a hospital facility. And he's still trying to get his hand up their skirts, really, can you just stop it now already? But yeah. So no, I never got very far with him. I never got any explanation.
When you caught him with your daughter, and did your sister/mother know about that? Was she informed, or was it kept from her?
I think from what I can understand, she never referred to anything. I don't think he said anything. I don't think so. Because this particular daughter, she was absolutely fine with her. She never mentioned anything. She never referred to anything. When the paddling pool was taken down from the garden at the back, she was like, oh, you're taking it? I said, no, I'm going to take it back with me. I'll take the paddling pool for the girls, and they can be, because at that time in that particular house there wasn't a swimming pool, and so we put the paddling pool back up for them, and they were having lots of fun. Put bubble bath in it and shampoo in it, so there's just bubbles everywhere. Just tried really just to get over that and try to put it in the past. It was never mentioned. She never said anything about it. She did have a lot to say about him because he was a major philanderer. He was always had pretty much a woman in every city, and each of the women that he was having his little affairs with, they all had young, very young, small, young children. And eventually when they got divorced, he took another woman as his wife, and she had 2 girls. And I thought, really, you're just continuing with the same cycle. You're just doing the same old. And I just thought, these poor girls, they're very young, and that's exactly what he's going to do. He's just going to groom them, move on to the next one. And it's just, and then when she passed away, the second wife that he married, she passed away, unfortunately. And he then found somebody else, and he just carried on the cycle. And I just thought, right, there we go. Because you obviously through the family, you hear what he's up to, where he's going, what he's doing, etc. And he just continued with it. It doesn't matter. It's just another breeder, another woman that had bred children that were not related to him, obviously, not related to him in any way. So he could have his wicked way. He just carried on until he had multiple organ failure and then ended up in hospital. So, yeah.
Did any of these women or these children, after a number of years, ever come forward? And has he been accused of any of these crimes by any of the other people he's done things with?
I think some people realized what he was up to. I think there were some cases, from what I understand, there were some cases that were brought against him. Just before he died, there was 1 or 2, but he ended up in hospital, so he was deemed medically unfit to testify. So I don't know what happened to those cases, but those cases went. But then there was a couple of cases where the children, the remains of the children had never been found. And I was thinking at the time that, while the parents are still alive, that I could possibly share what I know, because I didn't know all of it, because I'd made sure that I'd removed myself from him so that he couldn't do any more harm to me or to my children or anything else. I'd removed myself totally. But I was thinking at the time, I was placing it back when I was writing the book. I was, tracing back, where was he, what was he doing, which of the main areas was he in. And it turned out that actually where those children disappeared and how they ended up at the facility, it could only have been him or his oppos, the people that worked for him. And I was thinking, well, maybe I should come forward and say, this is what I know of these historical cases, like the Van Rooyen cases and the other, the ones where those 9 children had disappeared. Is say, well, actually, this is my theory. I haven't got evidence of it, and the perpetrator is now long dead. They've left this plane, and see whether that's going to make any difference, or whether that will bring some closure to the parents. Maybe, I don't know. This is what I was thinking of doing, but it would mean a lot of investigation and to see, what was the case, who were the suspects, all that sort of stuff. So that's a possibility. It's something to do a little bit later.
Are there people still in South Africa who are actually working these cold cases? Like, for example, the Gert van Rooyen girls.
Yeah.
Because somebody actually left a comment in one of our previous shows and said that all the girls that Gert van Rooyen abducted were all blonde-haired and blue-eyed. Now, that's very interesting as well. So,
Yeah,
again,
high
they were
value.
obviously going for, yes, those girls. What do you think the blonde-haired, blue-eyed girls would have? Those weren't just ordinary, and sorry, I don't mean to sound like this is a meat market, but unfortunately that is, guys. I always feel bad to talk about expendable kids. But these girls wouldn't have been expendables, though, would they? Although they would have been kidnapped, they wouldn't have been bloodline, but they all had blonde hair and blue eyes. So
there was one child that had white hair. I can't remember what the little girl's name was. I think she was 8 or 9. She had short, white hair, very, 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 very pale. I did remember her, and I had been speaking to the parents over a period. But yes, I think these were what they call taken to order. So it would have been one of the finders had got an order come in from one of the fixers to say, this is what we're looking for. Go out and find that. And then he would have gone to all of his crew and said, well, this is what we're looking for. This is the age group, all females, white blonde hair, or blonde as a honey blonde or golden blonde or something like that, and light, very, very light eyes, preferably blue or very light blue. And that's what they would have gone out and found. So I think
my question to that as well is those girls would have been tastes, orders, for a specific market at the time.
Yes.
So who was that market for? Who liked underage girls? These girls were all teenagers. Some of them were teenagers, but they all were sort of looking around 9 to 11 or 12, except the one girl, but she looked a lot younger.
She did.
So these were what do they call them? The tweenagers, I think.
Yes, they're the tweenagers. Yeah, very popular. Well, I think that some of it they were sending. I know that there was a lot of discussion around the containers and container ships that were in the ports at the time, and they were like, well, if we can get them down to the container, then we would have fulfilled the order. And you kind of hear these throwaway comments and you think, what are they talking about? But you hear these things and then you realize that they were going down to the docks. And sometimes you'd go down to the docks and then you have to sit and wait in the car. Very boring. But then you start looking at it and you clock everybody and you see, oh, hang on a minute, they're going to a container. What are they doing with the container? But you have to sit in the car. So I sat in the car, but then I watched what was going on. And he would go down, he would check on things, and then they would get ready to load. So I think that those children ended up in a container. The ones that they wanted to keep for themselves, they would have kept. And that facility that he had down the bottom near Bloberg Strand, those areas, that's where the facilities were, and that's where they would have kept them. Or they would have stored them in various areas that they had as facilities where they could be watched, fed, watered, made sure that they were ready. Realize that these children are just commodities, they're assets. They don't have rights. They have the right to remain fed, watered, with some clothes. But as people, human rights, they have zero, nothing. And no matter how much they cried, no matter how much they got sick, no matter whatever the situation was, they were seen just as an asset, as a commodity. And if somebody did get sick, really sick, they would then get sold for parts. So they would be recycling whatever parts would be available on the child. So there was always a market for something. He always had his finger on the pulse. He knew if this child had this problem, he knew exactly where he could get hold of children. And because he used to threaten me with that many, many times. This is the stock in trade was, well, if you don't do as you're told, you've got very pretty eyes and you've got lots of parts that can get sold. So realize that even if we were to utilize you after you'd passed, you still have a value, even though it's not as high as what we need you for. So yeah, when he didn't have any more animals to get rid of, to make me do what he wanted me to do, he would then threaten with that. And then eventually that got like really old. And I used to say, well, fine, bloody well, do it then. Just do it. That's what you want to do. Just do it. Because I used to get really hurtful. I used to get, I've had enough of this now. That's it. I want out of this. So I became not only a risk, but I became a little bit too hard to handle. And then, unfortunately for me, I've just got that personality that once I decide that's it, it's done, or I'm done. If I say I'm done with something, you must know I am done. There's no going on with this. And I think that was, towards the end of the book, where I'd said, I've had enough now. And if she'd come at me again with another broom handle, I would have broken that. But I said to her, if you touch me again, I threatened them, and you touch me again, that's it. That's the last thing you'll ever do. And I think they realized that the worm had turned.
Was that Christine?
Yes, it was Christine. Yeah, she was. Oh, I think in her heart she knew. I think she did, because she knew her own family back in the UK. I mean, they had already one person that had gone to jail. I mean, he had a 12-year prison sentence, and he was on the list in the area that they stayed in Liscard. That road that they lived in, he was on the list, and the kids used to cross over the road because the school knew, and it was on a school route, obviously. They used to cross over onto the other side of the road, walk past that house, and like, don't look at it, and then cross back over to go up the hill to get to the main road. So everybody knew that he was in that house, and that was his buddy. So he had already been bussed for this, and he got 12 years, and he was let out for good behavior. And he just carried on with what he was doing. So it was good that he was on the list and that the kids used to cross over. But she was complicit. I think she knew what was going on, but she chose not to know.
I'm sure there must have been a time. I mean, you can't have a husband, in my opinion, who's so high level in this game,
Yeah.
and for how many years? leaves no clue. You
Mm,
know, to
yeah.
me, you would have had to have been either hypnotized or blind all the time,
Yes,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
Or you do know and you've been either sworn to secrecy or your conscience just won't allow you. Oh, it's
But
just
with her, I
despicable.
mean, she was so materialistic. She was totally different to me. I can't be bothered. And she was just, it was always about what is the next new car she's gonna have. Are they going they're, measuring up outside to put the swimming pool in. I want to have the whole house done in Laura Ashley fabrics and matching this and matching that. Oh, I'm gonna go and get another 1 carat diamond. This is what was the key driver for her. I mean, it's so pathetic. They had two navy blue sports cars, Triumphs, and she had put at the back of each of them his in gold and hers in gold. And I'm like, really, really? And one of the
I mean,
punishments, it's not in the book. One of the punishments, because both of my feet were broken, so that I couldn't run away, but also because there was a very, very famous person that they'd asked me. And that one of those vehicles was used to run over both of my feet. See,
okay, okay, okay,
they
okay.
find
Hang
a
on.
way.
Can you elaborate a little bit about what you're saying? This sounds absolutely horrific. So
Mm,
you saying that something, I don't know who the famous person was. Can you speak with us about that? And you must have done something wrong that displeased them.
yeah,
And they rode over your feet,
with one
both
of
your
the
feet,
Triumph cars.
with,
Yeah, with one of the
with,
cars.
with one of their Triumph sports cars
Yeah,
with a golden his and
his
hers
and
engraved
hers.
on the back.
Yeah,
Okay, how old were you when this happened?
I think I must have been, because I couldn't see over the top of the car. So I must have been about, it was after he'd taken the virginity. So that must have been just past 13. And it was on the driveway. So they had an inward driveway through the big gates, in through the driveway, and then the driveway went out. It was cement. It had all been cemented so that you could reverse the cars from the garage, reverse the cars, go back all the way in the property, turn the car around so that you can go out of the gates, but face first, with the bonnet of the car. And so it all happened not outside the gate, it happened inside the gate on the driveway. So what you do on your own property is what you do on your own property. So when I was taken to the doctors, obviously writhing in pain because my feet were broken, oh, it was a terrible accident. Terrible accident. Awful accident, you know.
Who was it him? Was it him that drove the
It
car?
was him. Yeah, it was him.
And can you tell us what happened? Why you deserved that?
I think from the pieces that I can remember, because I think I ended up obviously fainting because it was so much pain, and I remember that sound of the tires going over your feet, and I just ended up collapsing and fainting because of the pain. But then that was all sorted out. The hospital sorted all that. That was fine. I think what happened was, it wasn't one of the ones that I'd bitten. It wasn't a bite one. It was somebody that he was really awful. I will say he was somebody that was the most I can say, because I know he's still alive. I watch where he is. He's a very, very old man now, but he was a very, very, very well known and well loved comedian in South Africa. He did lots of
Comedian.
shows.
Okay, give me
Comedian.
the year. Give me the year. Give me the year.
Let's think. 13, 60.
South Africans, we got to
Must
figure
have
this one out.
been
Bev can't say, but I can.
70, 76, 75, 61, 60, 71.
Comedian. Okay, what did he look like? Can you explain to
70,
us?
about 72, 73, around there.
Bill Flynn?
No,
Not Bill
it's not
Flynn.
Bill. Mm-mm.
Okay, so is he dark or blonde?
He's fair, big chap, quite potty mouthed. He used to say, he used to swear a lot and that. But he also did a lot of so-called good work with children.
Paul Slabolop is Paul Slaboleski?
No, it's not Paul.
I can't think back to that era because I was like young then. I
Yeah.
was like a kid, so I wouldn't have remembered the people, the comedians. Was he a comedian or like a singer, entertainer, like a
No,
musician?
he never sang. He did not have a singing voice. He did a lot of like MC work, master ceremonies, and his agency would pay him to go and open events and do stuff. He was on SABC a lot. There was like variety shows and things. Obviously, he had to tone down the vulgarity for whatever he was
Barry
doing.
Hilton.
No, not Barry
Not Barry
Hilton.
Hilton. He came much later.
Yeah, no, not Barry Hilton.
Don't tell me Barry Hilton was involved with stuff like that. If there's any comedian I like, Peter Dirk Ace.
No, not Peter. No. I know Peter. No, it wasn't Peter. No. Peter had a
Are you sure?
long-standing relationship with Cavalier Studios, which was at the top of the mountain in Melville,
Is
if you
Peter
remember.
Dirk Ace still alive?
I don't know actually, but no, Peter Dirk Ace. No, he wasn't. He wasn't part. He would have been the one that would have gone to the police and said something. Peter Dirk Ace wasn't. He's very, very talented man.
Peter Dirk Ace, he's the one that dressed up like the female politician, right? Is that the
Yeah, it
same
was
one?
very funny.
He's
Yeah,
actually hilarious.
he
Just to
is
give you
funny.
guys context, Peter Dirk Ace was an actor back in, I mean, I go back to the 80s. That's when I remember him from. And he used to like dress in drag as this female politician. What was her name again? She had a name. But he used to and he always ripped Puerta off. He always used
Yes.
to like pretend on his comedy shows and how she wanted to speak to Puerta. It was hilarious. But that's Peter Dirk Ace. No, I would be very happy that he's not involved in this. But okay, I'm not gonna. I'll figure out who that comedian is along the way.
I'll
But
tell you
error on
privately.
the case,
I'll
definitely.
tell you private. I'll tell you privately. I will tell
Can
you
you just give
privately.
me an initial? Initial.
M.
Send it to me
M.
in private chat.
I will. It's the initial M. Yeah. The good thing is though that I think that he was also found guilty of sort of nefarious activities and that, which was quite interesting. He also tried at one point, which I did laugh at. He did try to become a bit of a politician and tried to do all sorts of different things. But he never really got that far. I think that somehow he fell out of favor with the individuals. He's definitely still alive. He started working in 1963, which is how he ended up knowing everyone. And he did a lot of work for. Do you remember the organization called the Lions? He was very, very involved with the Lions, and he had
Well, the
a show.
Lions are definite.
Yeah, he was part of all of that, and he had a very big show, his own show, major stand-up comedian and huge celebrity. So
What year?
what year was he a celebrity? Well, he was
Like that
born
he had his own show and stuff.
when did he have his 1976.
Listen, we didn't even
Oh,
have
he had
TV then.
biltong and pot roast. He was on biltong and
Biltong
pot
and pot roast, guys. Who was biltong and pot roast?
Who was on
South Africans.
that? Yeah. Yeah, he was very anti. He was very anti-SA government, and he felt that he should be not in power, but he did feel that he should be in politics. He should be making a difference. He was very full of himself. So him and Peter, my handler, were like. So he was very in with all the celebrity crowd. So and
Leon
that's
Schuster,
where I got
Mel
got
Miller.
him.
Leon Schuster, Mel Miller, no.
I can't say now because they're still alive. But you have mentioned one of the names. Yeah, so I'll put it in our private chat. Can't, yeah. So that's yeah.
That would be, I'm sure that's Leon Schuster, because Leon Schuster was, I think out of all the comedians, Leon Schuster was the biggest. Right?
I'll put it in the chat for you. But yeah, he was, he really thought that he should be number one. And yeah, he was the SAP, South African Police, used to go to his house regularly and say, you can't be this outspoken, you can't be against the government, you can't be doing this, you can't be doing that. So I've given you a lot of clues now.
No, very much so. Wow. Well, I mean, I really think these guys must start owning up to their evil, because and what I find interesting. Okay, so your handler came out to start up the rings in South Africa. So tell us about the connection between the US, UK, Africa, Asia in these trafficking rings.
Yeah,
Did you
so
say it started with an M? Did you say
started with an
M?
M. Yeah, started with an M. So I think you figured it out now, Chanti. Yeah, you figured it out. So the connection
That is just
is very specific.
disgusting. That is just disgusting. Mel Miller. Oh my God. Can somebody just do something about that, please? And just like throw up all the man's shoes. Can somebody just throw up over his shoes? Oh. I'm going to go check up on him. That's for sure.
Oh, you'll find it very
Anyway.
interesting. I've been watching to see what he's up to. But yeah, he's one of the few abusers that are still alive. So yeah, go do your research. You'll work it out.
But even if we look back a couple of years later, and then we were looking at things like, what are these other shows, those Afrikaans shows? And there was that small chubby actor. Again, South Africans, please back me up on this. What was that? Something about the mining town, a Free State mining town, where they had that family and whatever. And it was that, don't know what the TV thing was called, but it was that short, fat guy who was also, and he had gray hair. That guy was caught for being a pedo.
Oh, really?
And yes, that round one. And there was a couple of them in that series. And we actually did the beginning of this. We did a bit of a decode with Jesse, and we looked into that whole series. And you see the symbolism on set and everything. Petcook Palace, yes, but there was the other one about also.
Yes.
Yes. Wow.
Yeah.
That is Unbelievable. So now we
Well,
stay
you've got a
all
lot
of
of
these things.
there's a lot of synergy between, you know, different types of roles that these people play. And if you start looking at the connections between different types of not just TV series in South Africa, but also, you know, for Springbok Radio and those sort of things like I don't know if you remember the Jet Jungle series and Squad Cars,
Yeah,
um, and then Us Animals, Punchline, all these different types of the Everywhere Express, which is where, you know, when in SA, South Africa, when they launched in TV, some of these people, some of the celebrities became very famous because they were playing various roles. Because that gave them access then to all these children all over the place. What I find very interesting is that since you and I have been doing these broadcasts, I've had a number of emails from individuals that have said, "Oh, yeah, okay." Hmm.
that's in there. I
Yeah,
remember
there's
that face now. Sorry. Oh, he's so
awful,
gross.
very gross. So, you know, there's some people that have got hold of me via email and they've said, "We're so glad that you've come out and said this on Chanti's show, because can we get together and have a discussion? Because what you went through is the same as what I went through." So there's another survivor that is younger than me. They were still doing it. They were still doing it.
Yes,
And
yes.
she named in her email the same names that I've named, the same people. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. And because when I saw the email subject come up with that had their names in, I thought, what the hell? And I opened the email straight away, and she was saying, "Please, can we have a discussion? Because what you went through earlier before me, I've gone through as well." And so I will be having a discussion with her to find out what happened to her, what area was she in, how did it happen, and then she was majorly ostracized after that by specific individuals. So I just thought it's amazing that the work that you're doing with your show and sharing these inconvenient truths, it's giving an additional outlet for other people. And, you know, I will ask her if I can forward the email to you. I'll ask her permission because there's a lot of information in there and she does name names. So at least then you will know that you are hitting that mark. People are realizing, oh my goodness me, yes, it's not just me. Because that is part of the issue with the grooming and these individuals. They will take you out of your family, they will move you to the side, they will keep you isolated, and they will make sure that they let you feel that you are the one that caused this, you are the one that was inappropriate, and you are the one that you know brought this out in them, and they actually had nothing to do with it, and that you have to keep it a secret because who's going to believe you because you're just a child. So it's the same along. And I thought, wow, that's incredible. So you know who you are out there. Thank you for getting in touch with me. And if you do have similar situations, please get in touch, because I think the more evidence we have, the better.
Absolutely. You know, I've always said that over the years, I've had a lot of South Africans reach out to me behind the scenes,
Yeah.
but they don't want to talk. A lot of them are so scared. And there's a deep, I mean, this country is still deeply entrenched. And I'm sorry, in that old white money in this country
Yeah.
is still very deeply entrenched in that apartheid cult lineages to the Oppenheimers and the Ruperts and the Rothschilds and the whole that side of it. And then of course with the African politicians coming in, there's a whole different type of dark energy, like the witchcraft
Yes.
that the African people use, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, this country, we really are. They've got us. They really have, but not for long. Not for long. And the thing is, so many people still from that apartheid era, still connected to Magnus Malan and Pierre Vere,
Yes.
those
Yes.
guys, they refuse to even open their mouths. I mean, it's like, why not? Come on, we got to set our country free. We have to. We can't walk around in fear of what might happen. We really do need to set our country free. I've heard some horrific testimonies from youngsters in South Africa and the abuse they went through in the NG church, the
Yes,
NG
it's a
Kerk.
lot. It's a lot.
It's that NG Kerk is absolutely horrific. I mean, those Germanys, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. They were very, very strongly linked to the whole apartheid, Nazi
Yep. It's a cult.
corruption.
It's almost like a cult in a way. And definitely the protocols that you see that are happening, it is, as they say, the cult protocols, because that is what they follow. And this is not something new. This is something that's been around for centuries. They have been doing this, particularly, kings and queens, leaders, and even I think some of the sort of the African leaders have been participating in that at the same time. When I was still in South Africa,
Yes,
the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, there was people that I knew that were participating and giving advice and guidance and doing not counseling, but doing some form of, the part of that commission is looking at what would work. How could this be? How could we free the people by allowing that truth to come out? And I did say to them at the time, you're focusing on specific, atrocities. But when I looked through the list of the atrocities in all the papers, nowhere did it say child transportation or kidnapping or CSA or anything like that. If you look through the Truth and Reconciliation commissions, they didn't say anything about that. So they were still protecting their own.
that's I I actually wanted to ask you about that. And again, just for context for our international viewers, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission was set up not long after the ANC government came in, and it was a commission that brought to justice apartheid crimes. So I guess something like South Africa's Nuremberg trials, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Where perpetrators of atrocities were brought to justice, and some of them were freed, others went to jail, I think, others
Yes.
just lied. But it's, I mean, stuff like that is always good. You have to have it, but it was a joke. And I actually wanted to ask you about that because you would have been around at the time of the TRC,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, it was.
And did anything like this ever come up?
It did, but
I mean, yeah, you've just said
they,
no.
they, they moved
Okay,
around it. They moved around it. The focus was on specific types of crimes, and then at the time there was a very large rainbow movement where there was the gay and lesbian movement in that time, and they were saying that actually they wanted all of those crimes and issues to be included in that, so that the constitution, the new constitution of South Africa, could include gay and lesbian rights. So they were very clever. When the difficult conversations started coming up, they said, no, we will consider the gay agenda, we will consider the lesbian agenda, the transgendered agenda, we'll consider all of that as an agenda. We'll add that into the constitution, and we will add that into all of the human rights aspect. They still never wrote anything about children or children's rights or the ability to stop children from being either kidnapped, ransomed, or transported. I didn't see any of that at the time. And I was really getting really annoyed, and I thought, no, I think I should go and say something about this, but I didn't, because they said to me, no, we'll get to it, it's fine, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission has a timeline. You know how they do, bullshit baffles brains. And that's what they did. They just said, no, this piece is that, and this piece is that, and then we'll get to the gay agenda, and we'll get to the lesbian agenda, and then eventually we'll get to, the child or children and young people, CYP, children and young people agenda. And I just thought, yeah, this is never going to happen. And it didn't.
No, absolutely not. No. Absolutely not.
Yeah. So it's historical, and it's time of change. It's time to change the Constitution. It's time to add into the Constitution children's rights. But I'm pleased to see that the new cases that are coming up, the judges in South Africa, when they catch them, they're throwing the book at them. I mean, at the moment, most of those that are found and charged with significant evidence, the cases that I've been following and looking at, they've actually given them life in prison, which I think is great, because we have a life sentence being survivors. And our life sentence is to deal with it on a day-to-day basis in our lives, our day-to-day lives, our marriages, our relationships, our family environments, our lovers, our girlfriends, our boyfriends, whatever is happening in our life, we deal with that every day. So we have a life sentence. So I'm pleased that they're getting a life sentence.
Absolutely. I mean, this is appalling, absolutely appalling. And, I also, when we look at your handler / father / uncle / brother-in-law, I mean, it's mind boggles just at the idea of that, right? Yeah. And the power that man wielded over other people, I think that for me, every time we speak, it's like, I mean, I understood he had a lot of power here in South Africa. He set up the rings here, right? Yeah. Did we finish that conversation, by the way, with the links to Asia, US, UK?
No, we didn't. No, we didn't. We were talking about because there was something else that came up. The links are that when you see them being loaded into the carriers, so the containers, the shipping guys that are running the ships, they just have container ships. They're not passenger ships. It's a different type of vessel. They then take that and put it straight into the top areas of where the containers are. They first take them all the way up the coast, and they go off sort of the Dubai, the Middle East areas, because still to this day, in the Middle Eastern regions, on a Wednesday, there is still an auction that takes place every Wednesday, like clockwork, because I know someone very well who has got 26 individuals that work for him, and he goes into the dark web, and they all go into the dark web, and they've been monitoring for years, for about 6 or 7 years. They've been monitoring these sales that happen, and you can actually see online. And he has shown me, he said, does this make sense? And he'll show me something when he's on the phone. He'll just turn his phone around and say, that's what I'm watching at the moment. We're watching these particular buyers, and you can see on the side who the buyers are. Obviously it's fake names, but they know the IP addresses. And he says, this is who we're watching at the moment. This person has just bid, £25,000 on that particular chart. And when you look at, when he turns the phone around and you see what's on the screen, and I thought, yeah, I recognize all that. It's exactly how it was. They're just clever today. They give you a burner phone, or they give you another phone number. You phone that number and you place your bid, and that's it. And then the moment the auction is gone, those numbers cease to exist. They're far more advanced now than they ever were. So really, really difficult to catch. And actually, when you think about it. The onus is on individuals to try and catch them. But then the people that are there, they're not invested and they're not bought into catching these people and stopping them. Because most people, and when I talk to people, I do talks all over and talk about, this is a real thing. Most people say to me, well, it's happening outside of myself. It's happening in another country. It's happening elsewhere. It doesn't, never really going to affect me until it does. And then you'll pick up the sword like we have and thought, you've got to try and stop this. But until people change the mindset of, well, it's not actually affecting me, it's affecting other families, other people elsewhere, they become quite, nonchalant about it. Oh, well, it's not my child, it's not my sister, it's not my sister's child, it's nothing to do with me, I'll keep my nose out of it. And that's what's happened. People have been brought up to say, keep your nose to yourself, don't stick your nose in somebody else's business, don't get involved, particularly in the UK. I mean, things happen, and I've got into trouble a lot of times where I've seen a child being dragged along somewhere and thinking, well, actually that child is in peril, and I will stick my nose in, and I do get myself into a lot of trouble. But then sometimes it's actually factual, and then the child will say, help, please help me, and that's it. And I will just go straight back in and say, come with me. And I will threaten whoever it is and say, no, I'm taking this child. This child has asked me to help. And if this child has asked me to help, I will help. I will stick my nose in. And we've got to change the way that we look at this.
Absolutely. It's so true what you say, and it reminds me of an interview I did with a South African woman called Pixie Pink, who
wow.
she deals with a lot of the child trafficking issues in South Africa, but it's an abuse, child abuse. But it's not kind of a government level stuff. It's like really on ground level. And it's insane how much of that is going on. And she speaks about how many kids are not even registered in South Africa. White kids. Now I'm talking, in the apartheid days, and still, the white people had to register. We had to be educated. They were not as strict on the African people at all. In fact, there wasn't. It's actually quite crazy if you think about it. My mind boggles, right?
Yeah. Yes.
But there are just so many kids, and these kids are being trafficked and sold to lawyers, to doctors, to judges. The upper echelon in this country are actually buying these kids, 15-year-old girls.
Yeah, and it goes as far as,
To go and
I know people that have gone as far as Norway, Denmark. I also know that at the time there was a shipment that was sent to Rotterdam. I think that's Holland. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Might be Holland. And then as they go off in that sort of UAE belt, then they do the Rotterdam, and then whatever's been ordered there, that goes off there. And then sometimes they will take that as far across the country via the shipping lanes across to Asia. So that would be China, Japan, Korea, all those areas. Not as popular, I must be honest. I know that he didn't do a lot of business in those areas. His business was mainly, those Arab countries, and then Europe, because that's where he came from, those areas. So it was very easy for him to move the goods, shall we say, the young children and young people through those areas. Rotterdam is definitely one, and I think Rotterdam, the authorities are fully aware. They know what to look for. But this is an organization across the world that have got, there's whole shipping companies whole companies that are owned by these people. And
Yes,
they were
absolutely.
whole shipping companies, and that's all that they do. They
Yeah.
do other cargo, of course, they do other cargo, but hidden in plain sight as part of that cargo is the 1 or 2 containers that will contain children and young people that have been given substances sufficient to keep them quiet for the journey.
I mean, do the people working at the docks, like the dock hands and stuff, I mean, are they involved with this? It's not, do they know there's kids in these containers? So I'm just trying to think about all the links to this chain. I mean, they've got to have people on every floor, so to speak, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I cannot imagine being
So,
okay working at a place knowing there's a container of kids arriving to be shipped off to Asia for sex work at 12 o'clock today.
well, I
How
think the
does
inventory
someone,
inventory doesn't say that. It says something else. And when you've
no,
got
of course,
entire shipping lines, but I think that from what I recall, I'm not sure when it was, but there was a group of dockside workers, wharfage, that where there was containers going into the docks. What I recall, there was at one point, I think there was a group of workers that stood up and went to the union and stood up on the docks and refused because they knew that children, young people were being moved through the particular docks that they were working at. Can't remember which docks it was, but I know that they stood up and said, "No, we're not doing it anymore. The buck stops here. You wanna have people that will be unloading and moving them and using the crane to move them." And one of the spokesmen for this group said, "We are sick and tired of walking past the containers and hearing these children crying." So by that time, whatever substance they'd been given had worn off, and they were begging to be let out. They were banging on the side of the container, and these workers were listening to them. And they had families of their own, and they just said, "We're not doing it. We're not doing it anymore." And that story was killed. That was it. They stopped that story completely. And I was trying to find information about it, and it wasn't shown anywhere. So they managed to bury that story. And I don't know what happened to the workers, whether they lost their jobs, or whether they were just paid more. I don't have no idea, because that story literally just stopped. Boom. That was it. So yes, some of them do know, and some will take a stand and say, "No, this is not happening on my watch." So yes, some people do stand up, but it's like the lone voice in the middle of the mist. Very sad.
if I, if only cops were like honest, if only you could feel like the police is there to serve the public, have your best interest at heart. I would love to know, I mean, if I look at my local police here, do I try? I mean, they don't even arrive 3 days. They'll arrive 3 days after the crime's committed. It's private security companies around, mainly South Africa, because the police force is so corrupt and inadequate that we have private security companies. I mean, insurance doesn't cover you unless you have an alarm and security gates, right, all
Exactly.
around your house.
Yeah.
That's the standard. So many of these jobs are inside jobs. Um, but at the end of the day, you look at our country and they are the privileged colonizers, right? Living
Yeah.
on the hill. And then we employ the African people to look after our riches. Isn't it fucking
Yeah.
crazy to
It
think
is.
of that? It's ridiculous. If I was an African person, if I was an African person and I was standing guard in front of some French dude's house on the hill who's built it like a castle and is here for 6 weeks of the year, and the rest of the time he employs the African security guards to make sure that other Africans don't break into his house. I mean, if I would be leading those riots. You don't understand. Not
Yeah,
to
I'm with
steal their
you.
stuff necessarily,
Yeah.
but to break into his house just because he's such a dickhead.
There you go. You've got it in one. And the thing is that when you start looking at the beginning of the cycle, and then where you track the timeline and where it eventually ends to where the child or young person has ended up with its new owner, you'll get to see all the little cogs in the wheel. And getting the children into the container and then making sure that they get to the auction and that they get to where they need to be. It's not just the auction that they are dropped off at. They're also dropped off like in Rotterdam and in Dover in the UK. They're also dropped off because there's such a thing as, I'll tell you this, it's called highways of the sea. And highways of the sea means that whatever's coming in by container, that gets put onto a train or gets put onto one of the larger trucks, vehicles. And most truckers don't always know on the manifesto. They don't always know what they're carrying. But they do know that, if there's a company, say, that's got a, a, like a star on the side of it, or it's got a what's the other one? It's a green symbol on the side of a big evergreen tree. They know that that particular company is owned by organizations that move human assets around the world. So they do know, but then depending on whether they have the rights to decline loading that or not, I'm not sure. But that's what happens. The highways of the sea is where the sea routes come into a port, then the port goes onto a train to go out, and those trains are connected, and the lorries goes onto the lorries, and the lorries are connected, and that is called the highway of the sea, because it goes from port to highway. So the seaport to the highway. And that has been in existence. How old am I now? Late 60s. I think that came into existence about 40 or 50 years ago, where they finalized
So,
the
so,
highways of the sea.
so somebody told me today from Australia that she heard of someone who takes the kids in the pig trucks and the cattle or the sheep trucks, and these trucks are obviously packed really squished tightly with the animals.
Yeah.
And then beneath them in the front or whatever, I don't know how, the kids are trafficked in these cages underneath these animals that are crapping and peeing all over them.
Yeah, but
And
remember,
this guy,
crapping and peeing can be washed off. Your skin is pretty resilient, and you're only going to be stuck in there for a short period of time, and they'll wash you nice and clean before your auction or before whatever it is, whatever show you need to be doing whenever you get there. It's getting the assets to where it needs to be. That's the most important. And as long as the asset gets there with 2 limbs, 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 hands, in more or less a reasonably good condition, they've got, doctors, surgeons, you name it, everybody, dentists even. They've got everything lined up. These people, it's billions and billions of pounds or dollars. And when you start looking at the amount of children and young people that go missing, we're talking of millions and millions of children and young people that go missing across the world. So this is worth, it's worth more than what some countries even make.
so I was actually going to ask this question, the same as Rosemary. where are the containers unloaded? In warehouses. So yeah, obviously they go there. The kids have to get taken out somewhere. So they must have special warehouses
They
where the
do.
kids are offloaded. Right.
But it's only a small percentage of those victims that are unloaded. And then you've got, say, about 30% of those victims are unloaded in a particular way or in a particular fashion. The ones that have been chosen to be sent out is a small percentage. And this is, I think, the easiest place to be able to circumvent it. And that would be particularly those that are going from the Pacific Ocean and Asia, but then also Africa, because that the victims have definitely come from, low economic or impoverished backgrounds, but they also have very lack of education because they don't have the opportunity to access education, but also the economic opportunities are very, very low for these individuals. So they're very easy to fall for, somebody that's trying to scam them, and then they end up being pushed into a vehicle. And I think that if we can look at what is the easiest cycle to prevent, then we can look at what are the prevention efforts, what is crucial, and also try to look at how many of those cases go unreported, because they're saying 1.5 million children and young people trafficked every year. Those are the reported cases. What about the rest of them?
Well, I think we heard around about 8 million kids a year that actually go missing. Then I guess that is so many kids. And then they've still got all the kids in the breeder programs. I mean,
Yeah, well,
those are
they're not registered, so you won't,
exactly.
you won't get to understand how many are actually in the breeder program. And they're probably in, the last time I sort of started crunching numbers and looking at the data, I think it was around about 360,000 worldwide. So it's not as big as those that are transported, but they are unknown. They're like under the radar. They are burst. They're not registered. And if somebody pays enough, yes, you can buy one of those and go register it and pretend that your wife has had, or girlfriend has had, this baby, and there you go. You've got the child of your dreams. The color and the eye color and whatever the background, because there aren't any that are uh, born of individuals. They wouldn't have had substances. They definitely wouldn't have had alcohol. And even though they're caged, they would have been extremely well fed, and they would have made sure that clinically, when they gave birth, those children are valuable assets again. They are looked after, they're taken care of, they're given their injections, they're medically sound, they've got good teeth. I mean, it's really a similar breeding program to that which you would have with your dog or your cat. That's a highly pedigreed animal, exactly the same. And somebody who's been in a cage herself, and somebody that has seen the cages and spoken to the other children that were this side and that side of me, where you're getting ready to do a show, people think it's not possible. Well, wake up, smell the coffee. It is possible, it is happening, and it does happen, and it continues to happen, and it will continue to happen until it's stopped. But with the ascension now, with the change, with people waking up, that will then have the light shone upon it, and there will be nowhere for these
Absolutely.
people to hide.
Absolutely. Which is exactly why we're doing what we're doing. We
Yes.
just shed light on these inconvenient truths, and sooner or later the cockroaches come scurrying.
Mm.
They, it's unbelievable to me when we listening to what you're saying, and especially the routes, the traffic routes, the sea highways or ocean highways, whatever they're called. I mean,
Highways of the sea.
yeah, highways of the sea. I mean, they've
Yeah.
obviously got like these rooted out traffic. It's like an airplane on the sky, you can hear the guys say, okay, you hear then and land here, da 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 da. I mean, they've got the same thing going on. No
Yeah.
doubt they've got, everyone like a relay system from this from kidnapping them in the car to putting
Yes.
them into the facility to putting them into the containers to taking them across the sea
Yeah.
to distributing them there in the underground tunnels. It's wild. It is so well organized. And the fact that people stand there listening to these kids scream and banging on the side of the containers.
Yeah. And the stats are huge. And I'm going to give you one of the stats, which I think, remember though that a minor, juvenile, or tweenies or child is referred to anybody that is under the age of 18. So that's what they call
Yeah.
CYP, children and young people. But this is the stats now, and the stats haven't changed that much since the last time I looked at the statistics was in 2024. And that is one child is sold across the world every 2 minutes. So by the time it takes you to have your cup of tea or your coffee, another child is sold. 2 minutes. That's horrific. That's across the whole of the world. Irrespective of what country you're in, every 2 minutes, a child is sold.
And that's our delightful elites, because that would be them that's organizing this international trafficking.
Yeah.
It's not just drunk Uncle Joe groping his daughter or his teenager, right? This is absolute such a slick operation.
Yeah.
It's such a well-oiled machine, and there are so many people involved. And it makes me sick. Your Peter Daniel Rhodes, what was his connection to Cecil John Rhodes, who was the first prime minister, or I think it was then the prime minister of South Africa? So Cecil John Rhodes is a very, very well known name that's linked to South Africa. What is Peter Daniel Rhodes, your abuser's connection to Cecil John Rhodes?
I think when you look at the heraldry of the Rhodes family, a lot of them are all connected in some way. I'm not sure what his direct connection would be, because we're talking about there's many generations that he'd been removed. So I haven't done an ancestry on him and where he fits. It is possible that he had some sort of links to him. There was always a lot of discussion about the Cecil side, and across the family there was a lot of sort of background discussion around the whys and the wherefores. Because remember, Cecil John Rhodes was also banished from the UK, and he was caught doing all sorts of nefarious items in the family. But he was also caught with the pastor's daughter and doing things that he shouldn't be doing. And the family was the one that decided, that's it, mate, you really embarrassed us right the way up through the crown. We're going to send you out to South Africa and Zimbabwe and those areas. You can go and look for diamonds and you can go and look for whatever, but you're not going to embarrass us anymore. Then he was also found. Now it's hearsay, but it's family hearsay. So the chances of it being true are pretty high. He was found in the cupboard with a young lad. And this was the joke across the family, is that, yeah, he can go out there and he can bastardize lots of little boys because he was found on numerous occasions in the cupboard with these young lads. So not only was he diddling the pastor's daughter, but he was also diddling young lads in the cupboard. So he was sent away in shame. And this is why when you read what he was doing out in Africa and the fact that he set up this whole Rhodes educational side and how he was putting money into education and how he was using that to attract youngsters, I think that it was true. I think that he was caught doing things he shouldn't be doing, and that's why they banished him. It was a banishing order. He was banished to South Africa and banished to old days Rhodesia.
That just makes me sick, because there he was, the pervert of the family, and then he gets banished to come to Africa, and he's known. He's buried in a very significant spot, by the way. It's some falls. I remember I've done a show on that before, actually, which is really quite an important ley line or portal or something, but not in a good way. But interesting, yes, Cecil John Rhodes has many memorials built all over South Africa in him. But I want to tell you something. The African kids, youngsters, hate him. Good. They know all about him. Whenever there's a riot, and let me tell you, there have been many over the years, at University of Cape Town, UCT, there's a library or something that was named after him, the Cecil John Memorial. It's gone.
Good.
Those are the first things that they break down.
Good.
And everyone's going, oh my God, savage. I'm going, oh hell no. You guys go right ahead. Yeah. You break down that evil structure because they know. I mean, they obviously know. And I mean, I just find it disgusting that he was banned from the UK because of pedophilia. Yeah. And being in cupboards, being caught in cupboards.
I know, I did laugh at that. Oh Lord. No, I know it was for us, it was like the joke. It was honestly, it was the joke across the family. It's like, oh, and the joke would be, just get in the cupboard then. And you go to the various Masonic lodges, and where did they put us? They put us in the cupboard. So kids were put in the cupboard again. It just never ends. And I just thought, here we go, another Rhodes in the cupboard again. And then, of course, being gay, I was rattling coat hangers, being, in the closet for such a long time. And then came out the closet, said, no.
Get out that closet, girlfriend.
Stop rattling those coat hangers. Come out into the light,
Don't just rattle the cage. Open the door.
Open the door.
I love it. Yeah. Oh, well, I got to tell you, I don't know. I just hope that in his next life he's a better person. And I'm going to leave it right there because I've got so many things, just the arrogance, the cruelty, and him still thinking he's living fucking royal life, being taken care of right until his last days. He didn't even suffer, the old bastard.
No, he didn't. And that's
he didn't even suffer. He thought that's why he still thought he was being taken care of in 5-star style. I mean, talk about living illusions of grandeur. Delusions of grandeur. Exactly. I don't even want to think what it must be like when he left his body, because he must have been been in for a rude awakening.
Yeah, but if you look at the picture of Cecil John Rhodes, particularly later, and if you look at the pictures I've put in my book of my handler, and remember that John Rhodes was Patrick Daniel Rhodes, the handler's brother, was also called John. So all these names continue going through the family. But if you look at the Cecil John Rhodes's pictures, and pictures even going and having a look online, if you look at the eyes, the eye shape, but more importantly the mouth, and if you look at the picture I put in the book of Patrick Daniel Rhodes and his particular look, and when he got older, and that funny sort of wavy curl, and look how much curl I've got. All of that is, when you look at it, you think, hang on a minute, wait to drop. It's possible that they could have been related. And some of the old pictures that I've got of some of the family, and you look at them and you say, well, actually, yes, it looks like it could be. But as far as genealogy goes, I've never had that confirmed as such. And what was very interesting for me is that when I was in Cape Town, I bought a lovely little apartment overlooking the marina. And what's very interesting is that Cecil John Rhodes also lived in Masonberg, also lived in Muizenberg in South Africa. So when you start seeing the similarities, and you kind of wonder, well, are they similarities, or is that just the propensity for that particular family? And it is possible. And there's a lot of uncensored interviews about Cecil John Rhodes, what he was doing, and particularly the theft that he was involved with. Because I think the family we used to say, well, he just used to get really annoyed. And that's why he undertook all sorts of atrocities in South Africa and in the old regime in southern Rhodesia, in those areas, because he was ousted by the family. So that tells you just how much he did that was very, very wrong.
That was disgusting. Yeah. And then he comes to Africa. Can you imagine what he did to these poor, unsuspecting African kids? You probably never in their lives come across a pedophile before, because stuff like that, homosexuality in the African cultures, it's not, it's abhorred. They don't engage in that. I'm not saying they don't, but I'm sure they do, who knows. But that's why it's only in South Africa that homosexuality is legal, not even in Namibia. The rest of Africa, it's completely illegal. So you got to think about this piece of white colonial horror arriving here, and the next thing he does is the first thing he starts doing is sodomizing little African boys. Good God.
But he has this veil of respectability, because we mustn't forget that Bill Rhodes, who was Cecil John Rhodes's father, so his full name was Francis William, but he was known in the family as Bill Rhodes. Bill Rhodes was a priest, a minister in CFE, Church of England. And he was one that was part of the Brentwood Essex crowd, and he was all in with, and this is where the stories came from, because he was caught. So there was no ways that Bill Rhodes, Francis William Rhodes, who is the father to Cecil John Rhodes, there's no way that as a priest or as a minister of the Church of England that he would have been allowed to push it aside, that he was caught in the cupboards with these little lads, and definitely not, brush under the carpet that he'd had his way with one of the other minister's daughters. So he was totally disgraced. And I don't know what's been written about him in history, There should be something. There should be something somewhere that says, he was sent out to Africa, Rhodesia, which is now Zimbabwe, should have something said about that. And I would hate to see, what was happening, because he had some really strange ideas about colonization. He really did. And a lot of what was happening in the Zimbabwean style was due to him. And we do know that he had lots of illegitimate children here, there, and everywhere, but he never acknowledged any of them. So I think history might end up saying that he ended up not really having any children, but he did have them here, there, and everywhere, dotted all over the place. But if you start looking into him as a person and what his idea of colonization and what his idea was, you can see the thread of slavery running through every single thing that he did, because he was one that was absolutely for colonization, slavery, and keeping those elites as high up as possible.
So just a disgusting pig. No, pigs aren't disgusting.
Pigs aren't disgusting.
Pigs are really actually very cool. And but he's just a revolting. I'm sorry. Okay, let me not upset myself about that.
No, don't
because it's just wild, when we think about, and all these people are so revered in our history books. They're like building statues, and I'm like, break them down, baby.
Just
break
them
down.
Chuck them down. Absolutely chuck them down, because no, I know what the background
Cecil
is.
John Rhodes is the
family.
We must actually talk more about him.
I think you should. I would, because you're great at doing investigations, I would do an investigative journalism into him, because people say to me, why did you keep the name Rhodes then in that case? If it's been so bad for you and it's been so traumatic, why have you kept your maiden name? That's that's the birth name. That's what I was given. That's what I've got, and I've kept it. And they say, if it's so bad, why don't you go and change it by depot, or choose another name for yourself, and change your name completely, change your energy completely, walk away from it? And I've said, well, who's going to fight the fight then? Nobody. If I don't fight the fight, no bugger else is going to. Let's face it. It's going to be like Hobbit, mate, on your bike. No, who are you? You're not even a Rose. Well, actually, I was a Rose, but I changed my name. Oh, come on, guys. No. I keep it because I want to say, this is it. This is the legacy. It stops with me. I have stopped it. It does stop. But now we've got to get everyone else to catch a wake up. Wake up, smell the coffee, see what's happening. Yes, I am a Rose. Yes, okay. Have a go at me. Sure, have a go at me. Have a go at the legacy that's there. But then also, if you're having a go at me about that, great. But acknowledge me for what I'm doing to try and make a difference, to make the change, to be the change, so that people can start, even if only one or two people start investigating the Rhodes family. Wake up, see what's out there. You have a Rhodes saying what is happening. You've got certain other families as well. There's other families that I've been speaking to where there's always one that will turn their back on it and say, no, I'm not going to be. I'm not going to be part of this. There is another one person that's part of the Illuminati family, and she has been doing also the same, but she's also kept the surname like I have. And we have this tete-a-tete going backwards and forwards via text. And I say, well, same old. We've been shoved into the same box, the two of us. But we do the same thing. We always carry on.
Well, I think it's an amazing time to be alive. So thank you for being alive and sharing with us at this time, because this is vital information for us. And we could carry on these conversations forever. So we are going to carry on with you again next week. And we're very happy that you made it onto the show today, Madame, and that the internet was kind enough for us to have a show today for both of us.
Well, the reason why the
my
internet was
is
down,
not always.
it was a big tree that came down and took all the power lines, and it took out six kilometers worth, which is it happened earlier this morning because it's sort of it's just gone midday here in America, and it was like nothing for the whole morning. It's like gone, that's it. And everybody was phoning in the area saying we've got no electric, whatever. And then they send out the electric crew and they cut the tree down and they've repaired everything. So literally in the nick of time, it came back online. I thought, oh my goodness, I was busy sorting out data, I had somebody else's phone to use to be able to do it on the phone. So we did have a backup plan, but yeah, it was please let this go ahead. And it did. So thank you for being patient.
Oh no, absolutely, babe. For you, I kill a bull.
But for your sister, I kill a you.
You and a bull. But for your sister, I kill a you and a bull, huh?
Yeah, there we go. Too funny. I remember that. Oh my word. Well, at least we can still laugh after all this nasty trauma. We can still have a smile on our faces because we've healed from this.
Absolutely, babe. It's beautiful. Thank you, and we will have you back next week. And guys, I know you have questions, and I'm gonna maybe we can even do a one of these nights a membership show with Q&A with you.
I'm happy to do a Q&A.
Hang on for me after. Yes, let's do that, and then I'll maybe we can just hang on for me after the show, and don't dash off like the Vit Blitz after the show again.
Okay, I will hang on. I won't be Vit Blitz. I've got Vit Blitz here.
Vit Blitz. Vit Blitz, by the way, guys, it's like you guys will call it moonshine. Okay, it's homemade alcohol that like the old people used to make. It's like 200% alcohol.
It's made in the bath. Put it in the bath. You make it in the bath. Awful, but yeah, it's like moonshine.
You smell that stuff, it knocks you unconscious.
Yeah, I've only ever smelled it a couple of times, and I must admit even just my poor little nose, it was burning my nose. I said, "What's that smell?" Oh, shh, shh, shh. Yeah,
it's wild. Wonderful.
Thank you so much, Chanti.
Thank you, everybody. And Bev, yes, you're beautiful. Thank you so much. And again, everybody, don't forget tomorrow night. I've not been drinking, and neither am I. Don't. We should never say so. You'd swear I had a bottle of something here. Chris Litera on tomorrow at 6:00. It's the on a premiere show, also on Era, pre-recorded. It's the anniversary, the 42nd anniversary of the 12th of August Montauk explosion, and he was Duncan Cameron, had the code name. These guys all had Duncan code names. He was Duncan Cameron, who literally opened up those portals and brought Campero to its end. So we're doing a second interview with him tomorrow, and also because it's the anniversary, 12 people, once the show's on, not now, only tomorrow, get to have a free copy. Ara's giving 6 giveaways, and Chris is giving 6 giveaways of his book, Terror at Montauk. And that's for the birthday anniversary. And for those of you who want to buy a copy, it's on his website, which is underneath the description area, and 20% off. So use the code ARA, A-R-A, and then you get 20% off. And of course, let me put my book up again. The short story I wrote about the beautiful buffalo, in honor of the buffalo who took out the trophy hunter this weekend. But of course, lost his life afterwards for daring to protect his herd. I was so furious. I was heartbroken, actually. And I had a beautiful connection with the spirit of the buffalo as an animal communicator. He then came and introduced himself to me as Kumbarai. And we agreed to share his short story in honor of all the animals that get trophy hunted on this continent brutally, absolutely brutally. So please download my free copy. I'm very excited. And of course, Mornay did amazing illustrations again. So as always, thank you to Mornay for making everything pretty.
And by the way, Chanti, I'm still running the special deal for South Africans on my website if they want readings. And I've had a couple of people that have come from South Africa. So shout out to South Africans that have come through for readings and sessions. They're still available at the reduced rate.
And that's £40, right?
It's 45, I think, yeah.
Okay, £45. Guys, that is a steal. That's an hour session with Beverli. That's a good price. Trust me, that is a good price for Beverli Rhodes. So if you'd like a reading with Beverli, let me just pop your website again on here before I start hogging the entire show with my new book.
I like the new book. I'm going to go download
It's not a book. It's not a book. It's a little, it's a short story. I love it. I love doing it. I felt so much better afterwards. My heart was singing. I felt like I was able to alchemize something, because if there's anything I can't stand, dear God knows, it's trophy hunters. I cannot even pretend to be empathetic towards them, and I should be, because they need it the most. So clearly I need healing there, because when I look at those guys and when I see what they do to our animals, and when the animals take them out, I fucking celebrate. I am so happy, because I am team animal. When you are hunting animals for sport, when you are doing it because you have the money to do it, and when it's a cheap thrill for you, screw you. You do not come to Africa to do that. I'm so disgusted and so sick of it, actually. So yeah, I enjoyed writing the book.
Yes, I think
Thank
it's
you,
going to be
everybody. Well, it's not even a book, it's a short story.
It's lovely though. You should put it up on Amazon as a one of the small books, you know. People can, because there's lots of small books on Amazon.
Yeah, I might even do that. In fact, it's a free download. It was just something I'm starting to do a lot more writing now. So you guys are going to see a lot more writing coming from me, which I'm super excited about. Lots of stuff coming out in the next few months. But that was my first short story. And I was so chuffed, because I've always wanted to do a short story and I could never find the topic. And then after that, with Kumbarai, that was the topic. And it had to be about a buffalo taking out a fat-bellied trophy hunter.
Well, there we go. I think it's brilliant.
Yes.
Fantastic. Nature finds a way.
Exactly. Anyway, guys, enough whinging about trophy hunters now. And God bless you all. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow in the chat. I will be there with Chris Latara on his anniversary show. And of course, Wednesday, Jesse, Thursday, Dennis, Friday, Holly, and Rachel Rachel Vaughan of Australia will be going up on Friday as well.
Oh,
so,
Rachel Vaughan.
Yay, our regular, lovely. Yes, you know Rachel. She's awesome.
I do, yeah. She's brilliant. Awesome. Yes, well done.
Love Rachel.
That's a clue.
Yeah, Rachel's been on quite a while. I mean, she came on when I first started my channel. She was on. She was one of my original guests from Australia.
Might be a good idea to have a
beautiful.
panel.
I love to see what she's doing.
panel of survivors could be good. There's only a few people that are bringing like a whole panel.
Well,
of survivors.
I was actually speaking. Yes, no, well, hang on. I was speaking to Danny about that. Actually, the other day I was thinking about you and Rachel as well. And then I know you guys have had your overseas things, so it's coming up. It's coming up. So wait, it'll be an awesome panel of survivors.
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay. Beautiful. Yes, guys, just see, I feel like a kid. I feel like a kid. Can you imagine how the kid in me would have loved these gloves when I was 4? I mean, I'm 59, okay? And I love them like I would be when I was 5. Okay, bye, everybody. Take care. God bless you all.
Bye.